My name is Matthew, a 32-year-old software engineer who just proposed to my girlfriend of 5 years, Rachel. We were on cloud nine planning our perfect engagement party when my phone rang. It was my mom calling with an unbelievable request that made my heart sink. She wanted me to cancel our engagement celebration because my younger brother Trevor was graduating college that same weekend. The familiar sting of always coming second to my brother returned instantly. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below, and if you have ever dealt with family favoritism, hit that subscribe button and join me on this emotional journey. Growing up in suburban Boston, I was always the responsible child. I got straight A's, participated in extracurricular activities, and never caused trouble for my parents, Robert and Linda. I followed their rules, respected their boundaries, and tried my best to make them proud. When my brother Trevor was born 9 years after me, the dynamic in our house shifted dramatically. Trevor became the center of attention, the golden child who could do no wrong. Despite my academic achievements and later professional success as a software engineer at a respected tech company, my accomplishments often felt overlooked. When I graduated with honors from MIT with a computer science degree, my parents attended but left early because Trevor had a middle school baseball game. When I received my first major promotion, my parents changed the subject to Trevor, making the honor roll in high school. I met Rachel 5 years ago when she joined our company as a marketing director. We started as colleagues who occasionally bumped into each other in the break room. Our first real conversation happened during a company retreat, where we discovered our shared love for hiking and classic sci-fi movies. What began as casual coffee breaks evolved into dinner dates, weekend getaways, and eventually a deep and meaningful relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. Rachel understood me in ways no one else did. She noticed how I would tense up before family gatherings and how my voice would change when discussing my parents. With her support, I started therapy to address my feelings about my family dynamics. Rachel never pushed me to confront my parents, but encouraged me to establish healthy boundaries. When I decided to propose, I wanted everything to be perfect. I spent months designing a custom engagement ring with a sapphire center stone, Rachel's favorite. I proposed during a weekend trip to the Maine coastline at the lighthouse, where we had our first weekend getaway. The joy on her face when she said yes made all the planning worthwhile. For our engagement party, we selected June 12th, a date special to us, as it marked exactly 5 years since our first official date. We booked the Harbor View, an elegant venue overlooking Boston Harbor that required a substantial, non-refundable deposit. We sent save-the-date cards 3 months in advance to ensure everyone, especially family, could attend. My parents received their card and even called to confirm they would be there. The guest list included 120 people, a mix of family, friends, and colleagues who had been part of our journey together. Rachel and I spent countless evenings planning the menu, selecting decorations, and creating a playlist of songs meaningful to our relationship. Everything was coming together beautifully. My relationship with Trevor has always been complicated. Growing up, I tried to be the supportive big brother, helping with homework and attending his school events. As he entered his teen years, Trevor seemed to realize the preferential treatment he received and began to leverage it. He would call me names, borrow my things without asking, and make snide remarks about how I was the boring, responsible one. Despite this, I continued to send him birthday gifts, call him regularly during his college years, and offer advice when asked. When Trevor got accepted to UCLA, our parents threw an elaborate party and gifted him a new car. In contrast, I had worked part-time jobs throughout college to afford transportation. The disparity in how we were treated became more apparent as we grew older. When I needed a loan to put a down payment on my first apartment, my parents declined, saying they needed to save for Trevor's college expenses. Years later, they paid the security deposit and first 6 months of rent for Trevor's luxury apartment near campus. Jason, my best friend since high school, has witnessed this pattern for years. He was there when my parents missed my high school graduation performance, where I played piano solo because Trevor had a minor cold. Jason helped me move into my college dorm alone, while my parents took Trevor shopping for new school clothes. Over beers, Jason would often express his disbelief at how I was treated, saying, "Man, if my parents did half of that, I would have lost it years ago." Rachel also built relationships with my family. She made sincere efforts to connect with my parents, sending thoughtful gifts on holidays and remembering details about their interests. She developed a friendly relationship with Trevor as well, though she admitted privately that she found him entitled and immature. As our engagement party approached, everything seemed perfect. Rachel and I were excited to celebrate our love surrounded by those who mattered most to us. Little did I know that a single phone call would throw everything into chaos and force me to confront decades of family dynamics that I had tried so hard to accept. The call came on a Tuesday evening just 3 weeks before our engagement party. Rachel and I were reviewing final details with our event planner when my phone lit up with my mother's name. I excused myself to take the call, expecting perhaps questions about dietary restrictions or travel arrangements. "Matthew, we need to talk about the engagement party." My mother began her voice, carrying that familiar tone she used when she expected me to accommodate her wishes. "Sure, Mom. What about it? Did you and Dad decide on your hotel yet?" I asked, still oblivious to what was coming. "Well, that's the thing. The date you chose won't work for us anymore. Trevor's graduation ceremony at UCLA is that same weekend, and we obviously need to be there for that." I felt a cold wave wash over me. "Mom, we sent the save the date cards months ago. You confirmed you would be there. We have everything booked and deposits paid." I know, she said dismissively. "But we didn't realize the conflict at the time. Trevor just got his official graduation schedule. This is his college graduation, Matthew. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event. And my engagement party isn't," I countered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Don't be dramatic. You can have an engagement party anytime. Just reschedule it. Trevor's graduation date is fixed." I took a deep breath, stepping into the hallway so Rachel wouldn't see the frustration on my face. "Mom, we can't reschedule. We have over 100 guests coming, some from out of state. The venue required a non-refundable deposit of $5,000. The date is meaningful to us. It's the anniversary of our first date." My mother sighed loudly. "Matthew, you're being selfish. This is your brother's college graduation. Your father and I need to be there. Family comes first." The irony of her statement wasn't lost on me. "I'm family too, Mom. Rachel will be family. This is important to us." "You can get engaged anytime," she insisted. "Trevor only graduates from college once. Besides, it's not like this is your actual wedding. It's just a party." Just a party. The word stung. I'd spent months planning this celebration with Rachel. It represented the beginning of our life together, a chance to celebrate our commitment with loved ones. To hear my mother dismiss it so casually reopened wounds I thought had long healed. "Mom, I'm sorry, but we're not changing the date. We hope you and Dad can figure out a way to attend both events. Maybe you could come to our party and then fly to California the next morning for Trevor's graduation." "That's not possible," she said firmly. "The graduation is at 10 in the morning California time. We need to be there the night before for the family dinner. Your father and I have already booked our flights." My stomach dropped. "You booked flights without even talking to me first, knowing it was our engagement party weekend. We thought you'd understand. This is Trevor's big accomplishment. He's worked so hard." I gripped the phone tighter. And I haven't. My relationship with Rachel doesn't matter. The fact that we've been planning this for months doesn't matter. "Don't make this about you, my mother," replied her voice, taking on an edge. "This is about supporting your brother. We expected more maturity from you." The conversation continued in circles. My mother insisted I should move the engagement party while I stood firm that we couldn't and wouldn't change our plans. My father got on the phone at one point, reinforcing my mother's position. "Son, your brother needs us there. This is important for his future. Your party is just a celebration. There will be plenty of celebrations in your life," he said, as if that settled everything. By the time the call ended, no resolution had been reached. My parents made it clear they expected me to change my plans, and I made it equally clear that wouldn't happen. They hung up with a final guilt trip. "Think about what you're doing to this family, Matthew." I stood in the hallway, phone in hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. The familiar sensation of being the less important child, the one whose needs and feelings came second, washed over me. But this time it wasn't just about me. It was about Rachel too, and our future together. When I returned to the living room, Rachel immediately noticed something was wrong. The event planner had left, and I collapsed onto the couch, emotionally drained from the confrontation. "What happened?" Rachel asked, sitting beside me and taking my hand. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I turned to her, dreading having to repeat my parents' request. "My parents want us to cancel our engagement party because Trevor is graduating from college that weekend." Rachel's face shifted from concern to disbelief as I recounted the entire conversation with my parents. I told her about their expectation that we would simply cancel our carefully planned celebration, the non-refundable deposits, the guests who had already made travel arrangements, all to accommodate Trevor's graduation. "But they knew the date months ago," Rachel said, shaking her head. "We specifically sent save the dates early so everyone could plan accordingly." "I know." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "They claimed they didn't realize the conflict until Trevor got his official graduation schedule, but I don't understand how they could book flights without even checking with us first." Rachel moved closer, putting her arm around me. Unlike my parents, she always made me feel heard and valued. "How are you feeling about all this?" she asked gently. "Honestly, like I'm 8 years old again, being told my piano recital doesn't matter because Trevor has a t-ball game." I let out a humorless laugh. Some things never change. Despite her obvious disappointment, Rachel remained calm. "We're not canceling our engagement party," she stated firmly. "This is our celebration, our milestone. We've put too much thought, money, and emotion into this." Her conviction strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about us, our relationship, and our future together. For the first time, I had someone firmly in my corner, someone who considered my feelings equally important. I called Jason later that night, needing to vent to someone who understood my family history. He came over with a 6-pack of beer, listening intently as I explained the situation. "Dude, this is beyond ridiculous," Jason said, shaking his head in disbelief. "They've been pulling this crap your entire life, but this crosses a line. It's your engagement, for crying out loud. My mom actually said it was just a party that could be rescheduled anytime," I told him, still stinging from the dismissal. Jason's expression hardened. "Don't give in this time, Matt. I've watched you accommodate them for decades, always putting your needs last. This is about you and Rachel now. Your parents are adults who can figure out how to attend both events if they really wanted to." As we talked, I found myself recalling other instances when my parents had prioritized Trevor. There was my high school graduation, where they left immediately after the ceremony, missing the celebration dinner, because Trevor had a scout camping trip they needed to prepare for. Or the time I landed my first major client at work and planned a dinner to celebrate, only to have my parents cancel last minute because Trevor needed help with a school project. One memory particularly stood out. When I was accepted to MIT, my dream school, my parents' response was subdued. They expressed concern about the cost, despite my scholarship covering most expenses. 2 years later, when Trevor got accepted to UCLA, they took the entire family out to an expensive restaurant and announced they'd been saving for his education since he was born. I later discovered they'd used my college fund to help purchase Trevor's car, assuming my scholarships would cover everything. "Remember when I got food poisoning during Thanksgiving at your parents' house?" Jason asked, interrupting my thoughts. "Your mom was more concerned about Trevor being bored than you being sick. She actually asked if you could be sick more quietly, because Trevor was trying to watch a football game." I nodded, remembering how I'd spent most of that Thanksgiving in the bathroom, while my mother focused on making sure Trevor had enough dessert options. The next day, Rachel and I discussed our strategy moving forward. She suggested we reach out to her parents, Karen and George, who had been nothing but supportive since we began dating. "They'll be on our side," Rachel assured me. "And honestly, even if your parents don't come, we'll still have plenty of people who love and support us." Karen and George reacted exactly as Rachel predicted, expressing outrage at my parents' request and reaffirming their excitement for our celebration. Karen immediately offered to help with any additional planning or family management. "Matthew, you're going to be our son too," Karen said during our call. "Your engagement is just as important as any graduation. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Their unconditional support brought tears to my eyes. This was how family was supposed to behave: loving, supportive, treating major life events with the importance they deserved. As the week progressed, I tried to focus on work, but found myself distracted by the situation. The thought of celebrating without my parents there hurt, despite their behavior. Part of me still yearned for their approval, and support a childhood desire that had never fully disappeared. Rachel noticed my struggle and suggested we might benefit from talking to someone professional. Just a session or two to help process everything that's happening, she suggested. We want to enter our marriage with healthy perspectives on family dynamics. Her suggestion was another reminder of why I loved her so much. Rachel never dismissed my feelings or suggested I simply get over it. She recognized the deep impact my family relationships had on me and supported me in addressing them constructively. I agreed to her suggestion knowing that the current situation was bringing up decades of complicated feelings that I needed help sorting through. What I didn't realize was that the situation was about to become even more complicated as other family members got involved. The day after my conversation with Rachel and Jason, my phone began buzzing with notifications. My parents had apparently started a family campaign to pressure me into changing our plans. First came a text from my Aunt Susan, my mother's sister. Matthew, I heard about the conflict with Trevor's graduation. I know you'll do the right thing and support your brother on his big day. Then a voicemail from my grandmother, Matthew. Dear, your mother told me about the party mix-up. Family should always come first. Trevor only graduates once. By lunchtime, I'd received messages from 3 more relatives, all echoing the same sentiment: I should reschedule our engagement party to accommodate Trevor's graduation. None of them acknowledged the logistics expenses or emotional significance involved in changing our plans. The most surprising call came from Trevor himself. I answered eagerly, hoping my brother might show some understanding of my position. Hey Matt, he said casually, as if unaware of the tension he was calling about. Mom said you guys are having some kind of party the weekend of my graduation. It's my engagement party, Trevor. The one Rachel and I have been planning for months. The one we sent save the dates for back in February. Yeah, whatever. Look, can't you guys just move it? It's not like you're already married or anything. My graduation is kind of a big deal. I closed my eyes, trying to remain calm. Trevor, we can't move it. We have non-refundable deposits guests coming from out of town and the date is special to us. Well, Mom and Dad are really upset. They're saying they can't come to your thing because they need to be at my graduation. His tone remained indifferent, showing no recognition of the position I was in. I'm aware of that. They called me. So just change it, dude. It's not that hard. Do it for the family. The casual dismissal of something so important to me and Rachel was infuriating. Trevor showed zero comprehension of what he was asking or why it mattered. Trevor, we're not changing our date. I'm sorry there's a conflict, but this has been planned for months. Wow, selfish much, he scoffed. This is why Mom and Dad get stressed about you. You always make everything so difficult. The conversation ended shortly after, with Trevor making it clear he thought I was being unreasonable. The irony of being called selfish by someone who expected the world to revolve around him wasn't lost on me. As the day progressed, the pressure intensified. My cousin Emma, the only family member who seemed to understand my perspective, called to warn me that my mother was on a mission. She's calling everyone in the family, Emma explained, making it sound like you're deliberately trying to overshadow Trevor's graduation. I just wanted you to know what you're up against. I thanked Emma for the heads up, grateful for at least one ally in the family storm. The situation reached a new level when my mother called Rachel's mother, Karen. I only learned about this breach when Karen called Rachel, clearly disturbed by the conversation. Your mother actually suggested that we should convince you to change the date, Rachel told me, visibly upset. She told my mom that if we insist on keeping the original date, it would cause a permanent rift in your family. The fact that my mother had involved Rachel's family crossed a line. It was manipulative and inappropriate, putting pressure on relationships that were just forming. Rachel was furious, and rightfully so. My mom shut her down completely. Rachel continued. She told your mother that we had every right to keep our date and that trying to manipulate us through family pressure was unacceptable. While I was grateful for Karen's support, I felt deeply embarrassed that my mother had put her in that position. I also felt increasingly angry at the escalating tactics my parents were employing. That evening, I received an email from my father that hit me like a physical blow. Matthew, Your mother is upset by your continued refusal to accommodate your brother's important milestone. We raised you to put family first, and your behavior is disappointing. If you insist on keeping your party on the same day as Trevor's graduation, we will not be able to attend. Furthermore, we will need to explain to the extended family why we aren't present at our own son's engagement celebration. I hope you'll reconsider and make the right choice. Dad. The thinly veiled threat to make me look bad to the extended family felt like the ultimate betrayal. My parents were willing to paint me as the villain rather than acknowledge the unfairness of their request. Rachel found me staring at the email, my hands shaking with anger and hurt. "This has gone too far," she said after reading it. "They're trying to manipulate you through guilt and family pressure. It's not okay, Matt." For the first time since this began, I felt my resolve waver. Not because I thought we should change our plans, but because I was beginning to question whether I wanted my parents at our celebration at all if this was how they behaved. "What if they don't come?" I asked Rachel quietly. "What if we go through with our plans and they follow through on their threat?" Rachel took my hands in hers. "Then we'll celebrate with people who truly support us and our relationship." Your parents are making a choice, Matt. They're choosing to miss an important day in your life. That's on them, not you. As we sat together processing the escalating situation, I realized we were facing more than a scheduling conflict. This was about patterns of behavior that had shaped my entire life, about expectations that I would always yield to Trevor's needs and wants, about my parents' inability to see me as an equal priority. The mounting pressure was affecting every aspect of my life. I was distracted at work, losing sleep, and feeling increasingly anxious about family gatherings. Rachel noticed I was checking my phone, constantly bracing for the next guilt-inducing message. "I think we need to address this head-on," she suggested. "Maybe we should go see your parents in person. It's harder to dismiss someone's feelings when they're sitting right in front of you." Though the thought of confronting my parents directly made my stomach churn, I knew Rachel was right. This pattern had continued because I'd always eventually given in to keep the peace. But this time was different. This time, I had Rachel by my side, and our future together was worth fighting for. I called my parents and arranged to visit them that weekend. It was time to face this situation directly and make my position clear once and for all. The drive to my parents' suburban home that Saturday morning felt longer than usual. Rachel offered to come with me, but I decided this was a conversation I needed to have alone. Some part of me hoped that without an audience, my parents might be more receptive to my perspective. When I arrived, the house looked exactly as it always did: manicured lawn and pristine exterior, giving no hint of the emotional confrontation about to take place inside. My mother answered the door with a tight smile. "Matthew, we weren't expecting you today," she said, though her lack of surprise suggested otherwise. "I thought we should talk about this in person," I replied, following her into the living room where my father sat reading the newspaper. "Son," he acknowledged, folding his paper, "your mother and I were just discussing the situation." I took a seat across from them, noticing immediately that the walls still featured predominantly Trevor's accomplishments. His high school graduation, photo sports trophies, and even his college acceptance letter were proudly displayed. My MIT diploma, which I'd given them to frame years ago, was tucked in a corner of the room, partially obscured by a houseplant. "I wanted to talk to you both face to face about the engagement party," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need you to understand why Rachel and I can't change the date." My mother sighed dramatically. "Matthew, we've been over this. Trevor's graduation is non-negotiable. Surely you can see that. I understand his graduation date can't change, but neither can our engagement party. We've put down non-refundable deposits. We have guests who've booked flights. The date itself is meaningful to us. It's the anniversary of our first date. Those are just logistical problems," my father countered. "They can be solved with some effort. Family should come first." "Exactly," I said. "Family should come first. Rachel is going to be my family. This celebration is important to us, to our relationship. Why doesn't that matter to you?" My parents exchanged glances. "Of course it matters," my mother said, though her tone lacked conviction. "But Trevor's graduation is a once-in-a-lifetime achievement. And my engagement isn't," I challenged. "Mom, Dad, I've spent my entire life watching you prioritize Trevor. I've tried to understand, to not be resentful. but this time, you're asking too much." My father leaned forward, his expression hardening. "That's not fair, Matthew. We've always supported both of you equally." The statement was so blatantly untrue that I actually laughed, a short, bitter sound that surprised even me. "Equally? Dad, when have you ever treated us equally?" I started listing examples. The college fund that went to Trevor's car. The missed piano recitals and academic awards. The constant expectation that I would adjust my plans to accommodate Trevor's schedule. With each example, my parents grew more defensive. "You're exaggerating," my mother insisted. "And bringing up ancient history won't solve our current problem." "It's not ancient history if the pattern is still continuing right now," I countered. "And it's not just about me anymore. It's about Rachel too, and the family we're building together." As the conversation grew more heated, I noticed something in the dining room that made my blood run cold. On the table was a stack of what appeared to be party planning materials. Curious, I stood up and walked over, despite my mother's protest. What I found felt like a physical blow. There were reservation confirmations for a restaurant in Los Angeles, dated the evening before Trevor's graduation. Invitations for a graduation celebration had been printed featuring Trevor's graduation photo, and listing the date and time, June 12th, 7 p.m., the exact evening of our engagement party. "You've already planned a graduation party for Trevor?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, as I held up the invitations. "On the same night as our engagement celebration." My parents had the decency to look uncomfortable. "We thought you'd have changed your date by now," my father admitted. The realization hit me like a thunderbolt. They hadn't just booked flights to attend Trevor's graduation ceremony. They'd planned an entire celebration on the same night as our engagement party, assuming I would cave to their pressure, as I always had before. "You never intended to come to our engagement party, did you?" I asked, the hurt in my voice unmistakable. "Even if there hadn't been a conflict with the ceremony, you were planning this party instead." "Matthew, try to understand," my mother began. "Trevor has worked so hard for this degree. He's the first in the family to graduate from such a prestigious university." I stared at her in disbelief. "I graduated from MIT with honors, Mom. Or did you forget that too?" "That's different," she said dismissively. "You've always been successful. Everything comes easily to you. Trevor has had to work harder for his achievements." The casual dismissal of my own hard work and accomplishments felt like a slap in the face. Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Trevor walked in, stopping short when he saw me. "Hey, what's going on?" he asked, looking between me and our parents. "Your brother is upset about the graduation party," my father explained. Trevor shrugged, dropping his backpack on a chair. "Still hung up on that. Dude, just move your party. It's not that big a deal." His cavalier attitude was the final straw. "It is a big deal, Trevor. To me and to Rachel. This party represents the beginning of our life together, and it's being treated like an inconvenience." "You've already succeeded at everything," Trevor said, echoing our mother's words. "You have the great job, the nice apartment, the perfect girlfriend. Let me have my moment for once." "For once," I repeated incredulously. "Your entire life has been your moment. Every piano recital, every academic achievement, every promotion I've ever had has taken a back seat to whatever was happening in your life." Trevor rolled his eyes. "Here we go, with the victim routine. Classic Matthew, always thinking he's been wrong somehow." My father stood up, placing a hand on Trevor's shoulder, in a gesture of solidarity that spoke volumes. "Your brother's just upset right now. He doesn't mean what he's saying." "Actually, I do mean it," I said quietly. "For the first time in my life, I'm saying exactly what I mean instead of swallowing my feelings to keep the peace." My mother's voice took on the martyred tone I knew all too well. "If you really loved this family, you'd understand why we need to be there for Trevor's big day. And if you really loved me," I countered, "you'd understand why this day matters to Rachel and me. But you've made your choice very clear." The silence that followed was deafening. My father finally broke it with words that cut deeper than he could possibly know. "Son, you've always been independent. You don't need us the way Trevor does. You've got your life figured out. Now it's his turn for our attention." In that moment, something inside me shifted. All these years, I'd interpreted their behavior as preferring Trevor over me. But my father had just revealed their actual perspective. They thought I didn't need them. My success and self-sufficiency had somehow become reasons to withdraw their support and attention. "That's not how family works," I said, my voice steady, despite the emotion churning inside me. "Love and support shouldn't be allocated based on who you think needs it more. It should be given freely and equally to all your children." I stood up suddenly, desperate to leave this house, and the toxic dynamic it represented. "I'm going to go now. Our engagement party will take place, as planned, on June 12th. You're still welcome to attend, though. I understand if you choose not to. But I want you to understand that you're making a choice here, one that may affect our relationship going forward." As I headed for the door, my mother called after me, tears in her eyes. "Matthew, please don't leave like this. We can work something out." I turned back one last time. "There's nothing to work out, Mom. For the first time, I'm not adjusting my life to accommodate Trevor's blank. I'm prioritizing my relationship with Rachel and our future together. I hope someday you'll understand why that matters." With those words, I walked out of my childhood home, shaking with emotion, but also feeling a strange sense of liberation. For 23 years, I'd been caught in a pattern of seeking approval I never fully received. Today, I'd finally broken free. As I sat in my car, too emotional to drive immediately, I called Rachel. When she answered, I could barely get the words out through the tightness in my throat. "They've already planned a party for him," I managed. "The same night as ours. They never intended to come." Rachel's voice was steady, a lifeline in my emotional storm. "Come home, Matt. We'll figure this out together." I drove away from my parents' house, leaving behind not just the physical building, but the weight of expectations and disappointment I'd carried for far too long. The week following my confrontation with my parents was one of the most emotionally challenging of my life. I fluctuated between anger, hurt, and a strange sense of relief that the dynamics I'd struggled with for so long were finally out in the open. Rachel was my rock through it all, providing space for me to process my feelings while assuring me we would face whatever came next together. 3 days after the confrontation, I decided to take concrete action to reclaim my power in this situation. First, I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Patterson, a therapist specializing in family dynamics, who came highly recommended by a colleague. "What you're describing is a classic case of family favoritism," Dr. Patterson explained during our first session. "Your feelings of being overlooked and undervalued are valid responses to the treatment you've received." Her validation was both comforting and empowering. For years, I'd questioned whether I was overreacting or being too sensitive about my family's behavior. "The important thing now," she continued, "is to determine what kind of relationship you want with your parents going forward and what boundaries you need to establish to protect your emotional well-being." With Dr. Patterson's guidance, I drafted an email to my parents. I knew another face-to-face conversation would likely devolve into emotional accusations, but a carefully crafted email would allow me to express my thoughts clearly. I worked on the email for 2 days, writing and rewriting, until I felt it struck the right tone, firm but not vindictive, honest but not cruel. Rachel read the final draft, offering suggestions, but ultimately supporting my message. The email read, "Mom and Dad, I've taken some time to reflect on our conversation last weekend and the larger patterns in our family dynamics. I want to communicate my feelings clearly without the emotion that can sometimes derail in-person discussions. Throughout my life, I've felt that my achievements, needs, and important moments have been consistently deprioritized in favor of Trevor's the loss grabbers. This isn't about one incident or even about the current conflict regarding my engagement party and Trevor's graduation. It's about a pattern that has persisted for decades. I love you both and I love Trevor. I've tried to understand the additional attention he received to not feel hurt when my moments were overshadowed by his. But the discovery that you planned a celebration for him on the same night as our engagement party, assuming I would change my plans as I've always done in the past, made me realize how deeply ingrained this pattern is. I'm not writing to ask you to change your plans now. Rachel and I will proceed with our engagement celebration as scheduled, surrounded by friends and loved ones who support our relationship. What I am asking is that you recognize the impact your choices have had on me and on our relationship. I'm no longer the child seeking your approval or the young adult willing to sacrifice my needs to keep peace in the family. I'm a grown man building a life with the woman I love, and I need our relationship to reflect that reality. If you choose not to attend our engagement party, I will be hurt, but I will understand that it represents a choice on your part. Going forward, I hope we can work toward a more balanced and respectful relationship, but that will require acknowledgement of these patterns and a willingness to change them. I remain open to conversation when you're ready to have it. Matthew. I hit send with trembling fingers, knowing this represented a fundamental shift in how I engaged with my family. For the first time, I wasn't accommodating, apologizing, or minimizing my feelings. I was standing firm in my truth. With that difficult task complete, I turned my attention to our celebration. If my parents chose not to attend, I wanted the event to be so joyful and love-filled that their absence, while noted, wouldn't define the evening. Rachel and I met with her parents for dinner that weekend, bringing them fully up to speed on the situation. George and Karen were outraged on our behalf, but also supportive of my approach. Family relationships are complicated, George acknowledged. But there comes a point when you have to advocate for yourself and your own family unit. Karen reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Whatever happens with your parents, I want you to know that you're already part of our family. Matthew. We couldn't be happier that you and Rachel found each other. Their unwavering support brought tears to my eyes. This was what family support should feel like: unconditional, generous, and affirming. The next day, Jason organized an impromptu gathering of our closest friends, ostensibly for watching a basketball game, but clearly intended as a show of solidarity. As we sat around his living room, beers in hand, the conversation inevitably turned to the family situation. I've known your parents for 20 years now, Jason said, and I've never understood how they could overlook what an incredible son they have. That's their loss, man. But look around this room. These people are your family too, the family you've chosen. I looked at the friends gathered there, many of whom had been part of my life for years. They had celebrated my successes, supported me through challenges, and now stood firmly beside me in this difficult moment. Jason was right. They were family too, in all the ways that mattered. A surprise came the following Tuesday, in the form of a text from Trevor. Can we talk? Not about the party thing, just talk. Curious and slightly wary, I agreed to meet him for coffee the next day. Trevor arrived, looking uncharacteristically serious, fidgeting with his cup, before finally meeting my eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, he began awkwardly. About Mom and Dad always prioritizing me. I always thought you were just being dramatic, you know. But then I started thinking about specific instances, and maybe you have a point. It wasn't a full acknowledgement of the dynamics at play, but coming from Trevor, it was significant. We talked for nearly 2 hours, covering ground we'd never explored before. Trevor admitted he'd sometimes felt pressure from being the golden child, feeling he could never fail or disappoint our parents. It's not like I asked to be the favorite, he said defensively at one point. I know, I assured him. This isn't about blaming you. It's about recognizing a pattern that's hurt all of us in different ways. As our conversation wound down, Trevor surprised me again. So this engagement party, it's really important to you. Huh? Yes, I said simply. Rachel is the most important person in my life. Celebrating our commitment matters to me. Trevor nodded slowly. I get it, or I'm trying to anyway. He hesitated before adding, for what it's worth, I'm sorry about how this all played out. It wasn't a solution to the larger family dynamic, but it felt like the first step toward a more honest and equal relationship with my brother. As we parted ways, Trevor gave me an awkward hug, something he hadn't done in years. Back at home, I shared the developments with Rachel, who was cautiously optimistic about the conversation with Trevor. It's a start, she agreed. Family healing has to begin somewhere. As the days passed and our engagement party drew closer, I continued my sessions with Dr. Patterson, working through the complex emotions surrounding my family relationships. I also threw myself into final preparations for the celebration, determined that whatever happened with my parents, the event would be a joyful affirmation of our love and commitment. 5 days before the party, I still hadn't received a response to my email from my parents. I had begun to accept that they wouldn't attend a painful reality, but one I was prepared to face with Rachel by my side. Then, the day before our celebration, I received a text from Trevor that would change everything I'm not going to the graduation party. I'll be at your engagement thing instead. Don't tell Mom and Dad yet." This unexpected show of support from my brother was the turning point I never saw, setting the stage for a resolution I couldn't have anticipated. The morning of our engagement party arrived with clear skies and perfect June weather. Despite the ongoing situation with my parents, I felt a sense of peace as Rachel and I went through our final preparations. We had created this celebration together, and regardless of who attended it, would be a meaningful affirmation of our commitment to each other. The harbor view looked stunning, decorated with white roses and blue accents that complemented the waterfront setting. As guests began to arrive, I was overwhelmed by the love and support surrounding us. Friends from every chapter of our lives, Rachel's extended family, colleagues who had become friends, all gathered to celebrate our journey together. Rachel's parents arrived early, helping with last-minute details and checking in on both of us. "No matter what happens tonight, remember what this celebration is really about," Karen reminded me with a warm hug. "It's about you and Rachel and the beautiful life you're building together." As the party officially began, I tried not to watch the door, tried not to hope for my parents' arrival despite everything. Rachel sensed my tension and squeezed my hand reassuringly as we greeted our guests. An hour into the celebration, as we were preparing for the first toast, I glanced toward the entrance and froze. Trevor was walking in alone, dressed in a suit, and looking uncharacteristically nervous. Our eyes met across the room, and he gave a small, uncertain wave. I excused myself from the conversation I was having, and made my way to him, unsure what to expect. "Trevor, I got your text, but I wasn't sure if I'd actually show up," he finished for me. "Yeah, I wasn't completely sure either, until about 2 hours ago." "What about your graduation party?" I asked, still processing his presence. Trevor shrugged. "I canceled it. Told Mom and Dad I couldn't celebrate knowing my brother's engagement party was happening without me there." I stared at him, searching for signs of the entitled younger brother I'd known all my life. Instead, I found a young man who appeared to be genuinely trying to do the right thing. "That must have been a difficult conversation," I said finally. "You have no idea," Trevor replied with a grimace. "There were tears, guilt trips, the whole 9 yards. But I stood my ground. Told them I was old enough to make my own decisions about family priorities." The irony of Trevor using similar language to what I'd expressed to our parents wasn't lost on me. Perhaps my standing up for myself had influenced him more than I realized. "Thank you for coming," I said sincerely. "It means a lot to me, and it will to Rachel too." Trevor nodded, then hesitated before adding, "I brought you something." He handed me a small wrapped package. "It's not much, but I wanted you to have it." Inside was a framed photo of the two of us from childhood, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning widely at the camera. I remembered that day we had gone fishing with our grandfather, one of the rare occasions where we had simply enjoyed each other's company without competition or parental favoritism. "I found it when I was going through some old stuff," Trevor explained. "Reminded me that before all the complicated family stuff, we were just brothers." The gesture, simple as it was, touched me deeply. It felt like an acknowledgement of our shared history and perhaps the beginning of a new chapter in our relationship. Rachel joined us, then greeting Trevor warmly, despite the family tension of recent weeks. "I'm really glad you're here," she told him sincerely. As the evening progressed, the absence of my parents was noted by those who knew them, but it didn't diminish the joy of the celebration. We were surrounded by people who genuinely supported our relationship and wanted to share in our happiness. Jason gave a heartfelt toast, speaking about witnessing our relationship from the beginning and knowing we were meant for each other. Rachel's father welcomed me to their family, with words that brought tears to my eyes. The evening was everything we had hoped for, a true celebration of our love and commitment. A week after the engagement party, I received an email from my parents. I hesitated before opening it, unsure what to expect. "Dear Matthew, we've spent the past week reflecting on your email and our family dynamics. Trevor's decision to attend your engagement party instead of his graduation celebration forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our behavior over the years. We realize now that we've often taken your resilience and independence for granted, assuming you didn't need our support and attention the way Trevor did. In doing so, we've hurt you deeply and repeatedly, something no parent should ever do to their child. We missed a beautiful celebration of your love and commitment because we were stuck in patterns that have damaged our family for too long. There's no excuse for that, and we are truly sorry. If you're willing, we would like to meet with you and Rachel to apologize in person and begin the process of repairing our relationship. We understand if you need time or if you're not ready for that step yet. With love and regret, Mom and Dad. I showed the email to Rachel, my emotions too complex to immediately process. What do you think I asked her? I think it's a start, she said thoughtfully. They're acknowledging the pattern and taking responsibility. That's significant. After discussing it further with Rachel and checking in with Dr. Patterson, I agreed to meet my parents for lunch the following weekend. The conversation was difficult but necessary, with moments of genuine connection, breaking through years of established patterns. My mother cried as she apologized for dismissing the importance of our engagement celebration. My father, less comfortable with emotional discussions, nevertheless acknowledged that their treatment of me had been unfair throughout my life. We got caught in a pattern without even realizing it, he admitted. Somewhere along the line, we started seeing you as the strong one who didn't need us, and Trevor as the vulnerable one who did. That wasn't fair to either of you. The lunch didn't resolve everything. Years of dynamics couldn't be undone in a single conversation, but it represented a first step toward healthier family relationships. In the months that followed, as Rachel and I began planning our wedding, I continued working with Dr. Patterson on establishing healthy boundaries with my family. I learned that I could love my parents while still protecting myself from harmful patterns. I learned that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or allowing the same behaviors to continue. My relationship with Trevor evolved as well. Without the constant comparison and competition fostered by our parents' favoritism, we began to develop a genuine brotherhood based on mutual respect and shared experiences rather than family roles. Perhaps the most profound lesson I learned through this experience was about the family I was creating with Rachel. As we planned our future together, we made explicit promises to each other about the kind of family culture we wanted to build, one where every member felt equally valued, where achievements were celebrated without comparison, where love wasn't conditional or competitive. If we have children someday, Rachel said, during one of our late-night conversations about family, they'll never have to wonder if they're loved equally or if their important moments matter to us. That promise became a cornerstone of our relationship and our plans for the future. A commitment to break generational patterns and create something healthier and more nurturing. The journey of healing family relationships is ongoing. There are still moments of tension and old patterns that threaten to resurface. But having faced the dynamics directly, having established boundaries and expectations, I'm no longer the person who silently accepts being overlooked or undervalued. The experience taught me that true family support isn't about who needs it most at any given moment. It's about creating an environment where everyone feels consistently valued and respected. It taught me that sometimes standing firm in your own truth, even when it's difficult, is the most loving thing you can do for yourself and ultimately for your relationships. As Rachel and I moved forward with our wedding plans, I carried these lessons with me, grateful for the difficult journey that had led to greater self-awareness and healthier relationships. The road hadn't been easy, but it had led me to a place of greater authenticity and strength, a place where I could fully embrace the family I was choosing to build. Have you ever had to stand up to family pressure to prioritize your own happiness? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. This journey has taught me so much about setting boundaries and valuing myself, and I hope sharing my story helps others facing similar challenges. If you found this story meaningful, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. And remember, sometimes the family you create is just as important as the one you were born into. Thank you for listening to my story.